This is Tim from Contentstack, and this is a code overview for our Kickstart in Next.js. And so a Kickstart is a very simple bare bones project with the minimum amount of code to connect to the Contentstack platform, but you also get a few goodies like having live preview working, making sure you can do visual builder. If you actually look here in the browser, you get images, rich text, you get modular blocks. If you want to know what modular blocks are, there's actually a link to our docs here, which fully explains what these actually are and why you should use them. And so there are also links to our academy with much deeper courses than what this video actually has. And you can join our community to ask all kind of questions that you want about this Kickstart. And so you get an entry which has live preview here working, and you can also click on visual experience, where you can literally just click on something and maybe change an image if you want, or change a title directly in here. This whole Kickstart code base has all of this, but it's a very minimum amount of code. And so let's dive into what that code actually looks like. And then from there, you can grab this, use it yourself, and build your projects. All right, so this is a Next 15 project with app directory. If you are a Next developer, you probably know what that means. You can see it's the latest. I updated this yesterday. And so we will make sure that these dependencies are always as up to date as we can possibly be. All right, so let's have a look at how we actually connect to Contentstack. And let's start with our library folder where I just made a Contentstack file. And in production, you might not want to do it this way, but this is now one file where we have all the relatively complex things, if you can call them that, with annotation. So you can read about every part of what this code is doing. And so in big blocks, we have our import stuff. We have a way to set our region for Contentstack, because Contentstack actually works on AWS in Europe, or in the US, or on Azure, or on Google. GCP, so there's all these different places you can run your app on. And so there's this little endpoints package where you can say, well, I'm in the EU, so give me all the URLs for that region. And so this endpoints object now has all your URLs. And so we set our stack, because in Contentstack we have a stack that holds all our content. And so with this stack we can then do queries to get it. So we have API keys, delivery tokens, environment variable, the environment that you use to get stuff from, develop or production or preview, whatever. You set your region and you enable live preview. All of this has been annotated and there are docs all over the place. So when you want to really know what a stack does and all its options, you can actually read the docs, links in the description. And so when you set up your stack, I'll skip over this one quickly. You actually have a function that I coded called getPage for a URL. Well, our URL here is / right? So we're querying our stack for the content type page, because that's what our content type is here. Our content model page is created. So I want page, get me the entry, and find in all the entries where my URL is actually /. And then it gives me back that page. And so we have this extra thing here to add editable tags to whatever comes back out of that HTML. And with that, we can annotate the HTML. So I can actually start clicking on a title here. And now Contentstack knows I clicked on the title, so I can content edit something. And so we'll show you in a second how that works. You don't have to do that, because you can also just go to the form and update the title like this, right? That's also possible. All right, so we have our function to get our page through the stack query, and we have our stack itself. So then the extra thing is the init live preview. And so there's another video in this series that really explains how live preview and visual builder works under the hood and why you would need a separate package to make that work. In this video, I'll keep it short. There's just a function that runs with a bunch of parameters that sets up live preview with your API key, the mode. Do you want to have, visual building or just live previewing? My stack details, a bunch of things that this SDK needs to be able to run. So let's go to our app. So in the page here, We have a function for home, which is our home page. Tends to happen, in Next.js. This is how that is built. There's annotations all over the place. So if you don't get something from this video, read the code and we'll get you there. If you have additional questions, come to our Discord and we can talk about everything. So what we do here is we are setting up something in the client side here to be able to do this live preview thing. So we grab the page with this get content function. And once we have it, you see, for slash, we actually then set that page state, which means every time something changes, we can requery that and set the state of the page inside the client. And so what that means is every time we do, let's say, a change here, that now changes that state, refetches it, and re-renders the HTML. And that's why you can actually see it in place here. And so we use the use effect hook because in the client side, when the client is ready, let's run something. And in this case, we initialize the live preview and we listen to changes from Contentstack. So every time I make a change in the CMS entry editor or live preview or visual builder, this function is fired, we get the content again. And so every change that you do in the CMS is reflected like this. Of course, if you didn't want live preview, the only thing you would have to do is just get my page on server render, get the page and run my HTML. So you can actually, create two code bases. One that's for preview where you do all this kind of stuff, maybe in the client. And then one that's for production where you don't want all this stuff because you just want it rendered on the server, where you just basically only need this line. And so the rest is rendering the HTML, which is all annotated. We actually chose to use Tailwind because lots of people use it, and why not? It's a great system. And so what you'll see is this. And this is that little extra that looks like, hey, what is this? Why is this here? And this is exactly that annotation part. So when we go back here, where I used our utility function to add editable tags to my page entry, so to be able to actually click on this so the system knows, hey, this is that part that I'm changing. For that, we need this, and that's what you see here. So on the page that I return to get back, there's a dollar object now. And so the dollar object title actually shows the following. Maybe we can show it in here. We can just inspect and zoom in a little bit, and you'll see that it creates a data Contentstack live preview tag that has page, its UID, the language, and the field. And because of this now, we can do this live preview because it knows exactly what this is and where to query it. And so again, if you want to really dive deep into how this live preview works, there's another video in this series that you can look at for why we chose to do it this specific way. And to be honest, that's it. Right, so we have this file that has three functions, right? Get the page, set up the live preview, and create my stack. And then we have the page where we either just do, get my information, or you set it up like this, so you can listen for changes and do live preview. And then there's HTML to render. And then from here on out, you grab this stuff and you run. There's lots of things you can do in the system. From adding taxonomy to maybe having rich text and creating your own HTML from whatever that rich text is. All that has videos in this series, so feel free to watch them and join us on Discord and let's talk about what you built. Cheers. Happy coding.